Okay, so you know you like animation as a concept. We can start animating, right?
Wrong!
No. Next, we have to answer the question even more complex than animation itself. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart because as someone who didn't have a lot of money growing up, this topic was my worst nightmare. Do I animate on digital or paper? What's a CPU? Can my computer handle this? What's a GPU? How do I know my specs? What's the best software? Why should I get this one over that one? All questions that shall be answered in due time. I'm going to split up this concept into 3 parts because yes, it is that complex, and I'm already really simplifying it to make it as digestible as possible. I really don't want to edit a 1-hour video, and I kind of want a content farm as well. And even after years of being acquainted on what rig to use or what rig to build that would suit your needs best, it's still a very dense, convoluted, and annoying topic. Alright, so let's begin.
Freedom is invisible.
When deciding what kind of rig you're going to start out with, you have 2 options. An analog rig and a digital rig. Let's begin with the cheaper and simpler of the rigs. Why would anyone want to animate on paper? For starters, this was built up as the true test of technique, what only the best of the best can do, what separates an animator from those who simply make things move. Drawing on paper will never be beat. It feels good, it's natural, and well, it just works. That statement will make more sense once we get into the digital aspect. And honestly, you just feel fucking cool animating on paper, no matter how good or bad the animations are. There's just this weird, fun charm to it. I don't know how to explain it. The beauty of animating on paper is that it's incredibly cheap. A light box is like 20 bucks, a peg bar is 9 bucks, and animation paper for 100 sheets is $10. To get started animating, you're spending like $30 to $50. And that's great. But then you have to animate on paper, and that shit fucking sucks. And here's why. So you key out your animation when you start animating on paper. That way you know where you're going. You have to plan it out ahead. And then to test out everything, make sure you have to do this like finger trick. Sometimes you don't get it right because I suck cock because I don't do this shit anymore. You fucking do that. And then if you want to make it everything look super clean and make sense, you have to do these things called X sheets, where you usually you print them out, but I did by hand because I'm a loser. Then you have X sheets, you have to have everything together. If not, your animation's gonna be fucked. And you have to do that for every scene, everything. Once you're past the bouncing ball phase, it's a fucking nightmare. I will be very transparent and say that I fucking hate animating on paper. It is so fun until it stops being fun, which is very soon. Something that's already very time consuming becomes even more time consuming. The learning curve takes a 90-degree skyrocket and turns what feels like into an impenetrable wall. You have to be very organized. There's tons of planning, tons of math. You just have to know what you're doing. I don't know how to describe it, but you just have to know. And that shit sucks because you don't know because you're starting. All right, so now that I've established that, what about why would anyone want to animate digitally? No matter what, even if you're animating on paper, you will have to edit everything on your computer. There's just no way around it. Working digitally consolidates animation, editing, audio engineering all into one place, so it streamlines everything very well and cuts down production time immensely. Even animation softwares have editing and audio engineering built into it, so you can kind of just rough out things as you're animating, so when you're doing the editing and audio engineering for real, it cuts it down even more. And all that stuff on top of each other really flattens that animation curve from a 90-degree angle to maybe like a 70-degree angle. It's something you can walk on, and it makes getting into animation so much more digestible and a lot more fun. So what are you going to need to animate digitally? A computer and a drawing tablet. Wait, that's it? That's all I need? It's that simple? Before we start getting into building or buying a rig for animating, I want to establish 2 things. First is how to identify if your computer can run something. You're going to go to your search bar, type run, click that. You're going to type DXDIAG. Great, now we see a bunch of numbers and a bunch of letters. The processor or the CPU is the brain of the computer. It's basically how fast it thinks and how complex it can think. You don't want a stupid computer because you're going to be running complex thoughts and software. The graphics card or the GPU is the vision of the computer and how pretty it can make things look. You don't want a blurry vision, you want clear vision because you're going to be making visual stuff. So you really want a strong GPU because a lot of animation software is GPU based. The RAM is how much the computer can actively think, so how many programs can be run at once. And the more complex the thought, the more it needs to think, so you want a lot of RAM. The hard drive, or any sort of other memory, is quite literally just the memory. A hard drive is regular memory, a solid state drive will just help you remember things faster. Now, you're going to look at your CPU numbers and their CPU numbers minimum requirements. Is your number greater than or equal to that? Great, you're in the clear. Now, you're going to look at their CPU recommended requirements. Is your number greater than or equal to that? Amazing, you're fine. For graphics cards, it's the same idea. NVIDIA makes it really easy. If you have a 900 card and you need a 700 card, you're in the good. If you need a 1000 card and you have a 2000 card, you're in the good. And if you have an AMD card, just look up the NVIDIA equivalent. It's the same idea, super easy. Bigger number, always better. Lather, rinse, repeat for the RAM, and you're all good. Now you know if your computer can run the software or game or whatever the hell you want to run. Are there smaller number processors and graphics cards that can run bigger numbers more efficiently? 100%, but that's something you'd have to do on your own time and research. What if all my PC specs meet the requirements except for one? Can I still run the software? / what if my numbers are just slightly off? You can still run the software. It'll either run totally fine, run slightly slower than expected, or you'll just be more prone to this. No! The second thing I want to establish, I'm not going to recommend any PC parts, laptops, anything like that. The thing about computer hardware is it quite literally makes itself obsolete within like 3 to 4 months. For now, just worry about the numbers, not the parts. If you want to worry about the parts, watch like a Linus Tech Tips video or like a Marquis video or something like that. I'm not those guys. Those guys are more educated than I am in that aspect. That's honestly what I did. I watched an Austin Evans budget build video, and then from there I learned everything else. So, as I was saying, when buying a rig for animating, you have two options. A workhorse Mac from anywhere to $1,000 to $10,000, or a workhorse PC from anywhere to $800 to $5,000, depending on if you don't have a monitor, you want a nice keyboard, all that other stuff you want. Either option is honestly great. I'm not here to tell you why Macs suck or why PC sucks. Both have their pros and cons. Macs are awesome because since they only do one thing very well, work. Most software is optimized for it and it rarely crashes.
But because it's not modular, once this thing is dated, it's going in the trash and you just gotta buy a new one.
PC is amazing because it's modular and you can play games on it and do literally anything else you want to. It's great, but you get distracted very easily because you can do anything else you want to. If you do have the cash to build a computer or buy a really good rig, always buy something that's way too powerful. It's better than buying something that's just right, because when it's too powerful, that means your rig will be future-proofed and you'll get significantly less of these. No! Okay, so now we have an idea of the computer. What are we drawing on?
Like everything else before, there's always a few givens for tablets.
The drawing tablet will not make you a better artist. All it does is make the workflow faster and more efficient. If I clean up something on this drawing tablet, it will take an hour. If I clean up something on this, it'll take 20 minutes. Honestly, I'm sure I could get just as fast on this type of tablet if I wanted to. I don't have to because I have this. Drawing tablets will never feel like paper. They always feel a little bit off. It's just the nature of it. I have yet to use a drawing tablet where it feels like paper. Maybe sometime in my lifetime I will, but I don't believe that. It'll always feel like a drawing tablet, and that's fine. When looking for a tablet, there are two types of tablets. There's screen tablets and drawing pads. I'll start out by saying that I'm a Wacom truther, but that doesn't mean there aren't other great options as well. I'll keep this part short and simple. Based off the ones I've used, if it's not a Cintiq or an iPad, it's complete dog shit. I had to use one of the Huions at school. It was truly one of the most insufferable and miserable experiences I've had. The sensitivity is awful, the calibration was off by a few centimeters, which is totally notable when you're drawing. It just felt off. Let me clarify, you don't have to get a Cintiq or an iPad. They are $1,500 plus. You don't need that to draw on a computer. It just makes everything a little bit faster.
If you really just want a screen tablet to start on as well, just get the Wacom one. It's like $300 and it's solid for what it is.
If you have like a Surface or one of those tablet laptops or whatever, I'm sure that'll also work just as fun. That's basically the gist of screen tablets. If you're not spending $1,500 plus, it's not going to feel the best. Luckily in this area, there's honestly a lot more leeway. I recommend the Intuos. It's small, responsive, comes with software. There's a $40 one if you just want the drawing pad, an $80 one if you want the software. The Galman M10K is phenomenal for the price. Basically an Intuos Pro for cheap. The Wintuos Pro is also great, but it's around $300. I've heard great things about the XP Deco. It's very hard to fuck up a drawing pad, so most options are very solid. Alright, and those are essentially your options for getting into animation. You can spend $50 and suffer the pain that is animating traditionally, or plan to spend around, at minimum, probably like $1,200 with the drawing tablet included, and save yourself a ton of time. And that's basically the video in terms of hardware. Wait, don't go. What if I told you there's an option that doesn't crash, comes with adequate software, and has a screen tablet, and is under $300?
That's all the time I've got. I gotta get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS.
Behold the truth. I have no clue why I don't see any animators, even animation tutorials, ever talk about the 3DS in terms of what to get started on, even as a tool. I still use this thing to this day as a pocket storyboard, even a pocket animator if I want to rub something out while I'm at work. It's very simple. There's onion skin, there's a timeline, you can even sound record, there's 3 layers. And that's all you truly need to get started animating. And since the 3DS doesn't have tons of pixels, it forces you to be simple so you can really hone your fundamentals. And once you get acquainted with the software, you can do some really complex stuff. Someone animated a whole fucking pilot on the 3DS. This thing is a powerhouse. I think the 3DS is like a perfect middle ground of animating traditionally and digitally, because you still have to use those similar concepts with the 3DS of making everything count, since it's a very bare bones software. The only bad thing I would say, it's a little bit of a process getting Flipnote right now, but other than that, this is what the ideal starter option is in my humble opinion. Get that crazy rig once you know you like animating, and if you really want to do on paper, get a paper rig, but the 3DS is perfect, man. In case the video was a bit of an information overload, here's a quick rundown. Paper. Pros, insanely cheap, and drawing on paper will never be beat. Cons. Learning to animate on paper has an insane learning curve. Once you're past that bouncing ball phase, honestly, have fun taking photos of each frame individually and keeping everything in order. Digital. Pros, combines animating, editing, audio all into one hub. Makes learning animation a lot less daunting and a lot more digestible. Cons. It's insanely expensive to get into. Spec research is very annoying when getting into it. The software wars are miserable, and you need a drawing tablet. 3DS. It's super cheap, comes with everything you need. Flipnote is the perfect starting software. It's portable. Cons. Flipnote installation is a bit of a process, but not too bad. Flipnote is very simple, so you're basically animating traditionally, but a lot more friendly. The screen is fairly small, unless you have like an XL. And the 3DS isn't in production anymore, so supply is officially finite. This video took a lot longer than I thought it would. I got sick midway through production. I've been working on my film as well. It's been the holidays, so work's been kind of ramping up a little bit. And honestly, the PC spec part, I got really self-conscious because I know once you get into cores, how well optimized the VRAM is, it's a very complex topic, but I committed to just explaining it as simple as I can to someone who doesn't really care about that stuff and just want to look at the numbers. I'm super excited about the next topic because it's just talking about software and animation software and what each does and the pros and cons. Even though it's been a video a month, I do feel like I'm in the groove. I'm feeling really good. Even if it's not that many views, I still am very proud that I'm doing this, and I hope it helps anyone, even if it's just a little bit, you know? Thank you so much for watching.